proper server setup contains of 2 disks set in mirror and 3 or more disks set in RAID 5. The mirror disk is always used for the operating system and the RAID 5 set is used for data storage. Because of this, the mirror disks are always smaller than the data disks, because you don't have to store that much data on it. Therefore, it's easy to recognize them. On most servers we have the HP ACU utility installed. This is the Array Configuration utility. With this utility you can configure your disk array. It can also be used to identify disks, and that is what we are going to do now. You see here the logical layout of the disks, and you can also switch to the physical layout of the disks. This is the physical layout as the disks are actually in the server. If you click one, you'll see that it will start to blink. This is also a way to identify hard disks in a server. We now identified the disk and we can now remove it to make a backup of it. I will use a small server for testing today. Simply remove it from the server and give it a few seconds to spin down and before you remove it. Insert it in the server you want to use for making the backup of it and power up the server. We inserted a disk in the server we are going to use for the backup, and now we need to launch Array Manager to configure the disk to have Windows see it. It found an unassigned physical disk, so follow the wizard to add it to the array. Now we have configured the disk and we need to save the configuration and reboot the server, and Windows will have a new drive letter. While our backup server is rebooting, I'll show you in the meantime that our real server that we're making the backup of is still running fine on one disk. As you can see, Windows didn't even notice that there is a disk missing. But if you launch the Array Configuration ability, you will see that there is a disk missing here. If we switch back to the backup server, you'll see that we now have the partitions on a new disk and they are normally accessible. If we switch over to the original server, which is also still running, we can compare the data that it is exactly the same as we have on the backup server. Okay, let's make a ghost of this. To make a ghost of this hard disk, we use the PE Builder boot CD. The people who haven't seen the first disaster recovery movie, I strongly advise to watch it first, because it will explain in more detail how to use the PE Builder CD to make ghost images. We don't need network support because we're going to ghost to a local disk. If you look here, you'll see the disks that we have. The new disk is also there, and the partitions. And we're going to use Ghost to make a ghost image out of it. For more details on how to use Ghost, I recommend you watch the first disaster recovery video. The best way to do this is to make a ghost of the complete disk. That way you also make a backup of the master boot record and all the partitions on it, which makes it bootable. You should know the size of the disk by now, so make a selection out of the disks. Pick the right one and goes to the other disk to the image. It completed successfully, so we can shut it down, and we're done. Now we've created the ghost image, we need to test it. We're going to use Norton Ghost Explorer for that. Open up the ghost image and wait for the partitions to load. And as you can see, we can view the data, so the ghost is okay. For Dell servers, it's a little bit different. If you log on, go to My Computer, select Manage, go to the Dell Array Manager, and if you open up the disks, click open the array, and there you will see the two virtual disks. One disk is mirror, disk 0, and disk 1 is RAID 5. You can see that's the mirror set, and that is the RAID 5 set. The Dell software uses the blink option to identify disks, so right click on a disk, select blink, and it will start to blink. With Dell software you can take disks offline, so do a right mouse click, select offline, and this way you will take a disk offline and prepare it for removal. And now you can remove the disk. And give some time to spin down before you move it. Now I'm going to show you the other way to do the same thing with a normal desktop with a SCSI card. This is useful if you don't have a server laying around, or if you don't want the hassle of reconfiguring drive arrays with hard disks. This is a very easy way to make a ghost image of a server disk without having a server around. Very important in this is that you have a SCA converter. This thing has a SCA connector here and a normal set of normal SCSI connectors on the back, and a power supply. Power connector here. If you have a server on this, you typically have SCA SCSI connector, which is this. Now this SCSI connector is hot swappable, so this means you can do it out while the server is running. That's not possible with this type of SCSI connector. So to be able to connect a server hard disk to a normal SCSI card, you have to use this connector. You can buy it for €50, so it's very useful to have. We're going to use this desktop for our test, and we are going to use the Dell hard disk I previously removed from the Dell server in the rack. Okay, let's get started. We are going to use a normal Adaptec SCSI card. You can buy in every computer shop. And we're going to use this desktop. And you need some cables to connect it all together. Okay, everything is connected now. Please make sure that you use a terminator, and it needs power, and it's connected to the disk now. So we'll turn on the PC. And the disk should show up in the SCSI overview, and it does. Okay, we have a different screen now, so I hope you can see it. As you can see, we have the local disk, and here you see the SCSI disk, system, apps and data. If we now launch Ghost, we can say local disk to image. It's the 70 gig disk because our disk is 40 gigs. Of course, all of you already noticed that I forgot to give the until option. It should work fine without it, but I always do it as well to make sure that we flush the NTFS cache. So it's always best to start from a command prompt and give the until option together with Ghost. For the rest, it's the same as making a normal Ghost, so everything should be known by now. The Ghost completed successfully, so now you have created a full clone of the disk of the server. So you can put back the disk in the server now, or put it in the vault for storage. If the server crashes, you can easily restore it using this Ghost image. Okay, so we now have created the Ghost image from the mirror disk, so we have a full copy of the OS. So now let's say that the server has crashed and we want to restore it from the Ghost image we created. I recently learned that it's best to create a disk image instead of a partition image, because sometimes if you only restore a partition, it can be possible that your server is not bootable because your master boot record is not included in the Ghost. Therefore I advise you to always do, particularly in this setup, always do disk to image instead of partition to image. But because you only have this problem with new disks, so if you have an existing disk where only the OS is crashed, then you can simply restore the partition. Okay, let's say that the server is crashed and we now want to restore it from the Ghost image. Let's do that. Okay, so we have a Ghost image. Now let's say we have a complete system crash and we need to start with 2 new hard disks which are completely empty. This means we have to configure the array to configure the 2 hard disks, and we need to restore the Ghost image, which we will do with BE Builder. First I will set up the array to configure the hard disks. To do this we need the HP Smart Start CD. This CD is always used to set up servers. If you boot up the server, the array will be empty and you need to press escape to skip the configuration to continue booting the server. When it is booted, you can go to Setup and then you can start the Array Configuration utility to configure the array. Here in the array controller you have the option to configure the disks. Select both disks and install them as a RAID 1 array, which is a mirror set. After you have closed the array configuration utility, it will automatically continue with the operating system setup. You should continue doing that and set it up as a Windows 2003 server or Windows 2000, just the operating system you backed up with the Ghost. And continue the wizard until it asks to insert the operating system CD, and then simply shut down the server and boot with the PE Builder CD. Things as server name and product key are not important here, so just fill in something. After you have configured the array, we can now restore the Ghost image. Simply boot with the PE Builder CD and launch Ghost to restore the Ghost. When you made your backup on Ghost, of course you copied it to a central location on a central server, and obviously now we need a network to get it from that central location. So launch network support and fill in an IP address and map a drive to the server to reach the Ghost file. Okay, so after you map the drive, you can launch Ghost and restore the disk from the image file. Okay, so now we've restored the server disk and we can boot it up again. And voila, there it is again. just like it was when you made the ghost image. Because we didn't put the disk offline, because we don't have the option with the HP software, Windows thinks that the power was removed on the disk, so therefore it asks you why it was shut down improperly. Normally this shouldn't give any problems, but if you really want to be sure, you have to shut down the server first and then take out the disk, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. Normally I've never, up until now, I haven't seen any problems with it. We've successfully restored the server, and that concludes this part of the video. Okay, so far we have created the ghost image from an HP server using the server itself. We've created the ghost image from a Dell server using a desktop. We've restored an HP server from a ghost image using the server, and now we are going to restore a Dell server using a desktop. Okay, we have used the SCA connector again and the SCSI controller card to connect the hard disk to a desktop. And when you start up Windows, it will find a new disk. Follow the wizard to import the disk. Format and partition it to give it a drive letter. And then you will be able to ghost to it. You can do all of that using disk management in the My Computer Management option. Starting up disk management with a SCSI disk connected to your desktop can take a while, so please be patient and wait for it to start up. When your disk is properly connected to the desktop, you can simply start up Ghost again, look up your image file we previously made and restore it to the disk. When the imaging is complete, we can shut down the computer again, disconnect the hard disk and put it back in the server we want to recover. I've put the disk back into the server and now I will start it up to see if our restore worked. Well, the server started up just fine and the RAID controller is now beeping because it is missing one disk, because there is only one disk of the mirror set inserted in the bay at the moment. I will now connect to the RAID controller and confirm that it's missing a disk, and that will stop the beeping. But as you can see, it is working fine, and that concludes this part of the video.